going to travel from one to the next. So you'll get a view of what that looks like here. We're planning on 4 bosses for this. Anything between 3 and 5 we feel like always feels pretty good for a dungeon. So this is a look at the layout. Same deal here. This is what we start with and how we get things going. So you can see all that blue area is basically like a chasm, because this dungeon takes place underwater. The entire dungeon is similar to our entire first zone of Bashir. So everything about this will be under the water in the elemental plane of water. And we have a ton of new tech that we're introducing with Cataclysm that helps deal with players being underwater. Whenever you touch the ground, you actually lock to the ground on the bottom. And then playing with your character at that point feels just like you would be on land. So we've done all new animations for the races, so when they walk underwater, they feel like they're actually moving through the water plane. But for you as a player, you're not dealing with odd camera angles or creatures that are swimming above you or 3D, perception issues that might feel weird. So we want to get that vibe and that feeling that players are underwater, but historically, obviously, underwater combat has not been a strong point. So we wanted to make sure that doing something like this didn't affect the gameplay. And I think we can definitely say that we know that's going to work out well because we've already seen it in Bashir. So here's some concept art. The concept art here, obviously, it's going to feel similar to what we're doing with Throne of the Tides because it's built by the same race. So we want these two things to feel tied together. It's almost the same thing like we do with Winged Dungeons, where we want them to feel like they're from the same place, but you're going to get a very different experience in either one. It's another piece of concept art. And to close out today, we have a new feature we haven't talked with anyone about. This is a feature we tried desperately to get in for Cataclysm, but it turned out that there was a number of things we wanted to do with this feature to actually bump it up and bring it up to a level where we just felt like it would be awesome. So we decided to hold it, and it's something that we're working on for a future patch. And we wanted to give you guys a sneak peek at what it means and what it is. And for us, it's the idea of doing basically enhanced dungeon maps. So everyone noticed and obviously saw that we put in 2D maps in Northrend for all of the dungeons. So when you go into a dungeon, instead of just having to look at your mini-map and seeing that small portion of the dungeon you're on, we did full 2D maps like you would see for any zone in World of Warcraft. The response for that was very strong. A lot of players really loved that concept. They liked seeing where they were. And for Cataclysm, we've actually gone back and we've done 2D maps for every single dungeon in the game. So that's our first step, and we thought that was great. Now players aren't going to get lost. It's going to feel like they're knowing where they're going. But as anything at Blizzard, we really didn't think that was enough. So the next thing we want to do is get detailed boss information on these maps. So when you're in a dungeon, you come up to a boss, you want to know what loot is this boss going to drop. I'm going to be able to see that. You want to know maybe a small paragraph about where this boss came from, what he's doing, what's his deal, why is he down here standing in this room. Give you a little bit of background on the story. Thirdly, we also want you to know the abilities. As you've seen, in Northrend, we were able to actually link abilities through the chat. So when you're in a raid fight and an ability happens, it shows up in your chat and you can actually click it and get a detailed tooltip on what that ability was and what it did. Have the ability to see these things before they actually go into the fight. Because if you look at any fight now in the game, the only way to really find out if something, what it does, is to die. You have to basically pull the boss and figure out, oh, well, he's doing this meteor that we've got to get out of the way, or he's doing a pulsing AE and it's killing us. And there's no way to find that stuff out. So by having those abilities be available for you to see when you come up before you pull the boss, you really think it'll give a lot of players a lot more insight into what they're getting into. We're not going to tell you exactly how the boss works, by no means. We still want the gameplay to be there, but we definitely want you to have an idea of what you're getting into. So many people right now end up alt-tabbing out of WoW and going to a site, Wowhead or any of these sites, to try to get information. And that's great. We think that sites like that are awesome for the game. They really help. But we also would like people to be able to get some of that information inside of WoW and not have to actually go outside to do that. And so we really think this is going to be a huge feature for the game. To go along with this, we're going to have 3D portraits of the bosses, so when you see them, you'll be able to see an actually 3D animated, full-on model of the boss, get a chance to see what he looks like. It's just a cool feature that helps you maybe get a better vibe on who the guy is and what he's doing. It works really well with the idea that we're going to show lore on the boss. And finally, this feature will work in both dungeons and raids. We don't want to leave anyone out, so you'll be able to see all this kind of information for both sides. And to close out today, that's all the information we have for what we're planning on. Give you a little bit of a sneak peek of Cataclysm and stuff we're planning for the patches. But we wanted to leave you guys with a really awesome video we got from our DVD production team of what you can expect in the raids that are coming with shipping Cataclysm here in just a few weeks. Just imagine that this sounds awesome.
Yeah, so this is the first two bosses for Blackwing Descent. What you just saw there was the Omnitron Defense Council and Magmaw, the lava worm.
Sweet elevator.
Yeah. There's Maloriak. Chimeron, and then here's Atromedes. It's that blind dragon I was talking about.
It's our first blind dragon.
Yeah. Another one of the raid zones you'll be playing through, Bastion of Twilight. This is sort of the raid zone that culminates the entire Twilight theme of lore and quests that you've been doing throughout this entire expansion. So you see Cho'Gall in here. Here's a pair of Twilight dragons that end up yelling at each other a whole lot to kill you all. We have a bunch of elementals. We actually have Ascendant Council. There's one of them. You'll be fighting a Ascendant of each elemental type in the fight.
Here's Cho'Gall.
Just chilling on the throne.
Hanging out with his beak.
With a huge hammer.
Throne of the Four Winds is, you could look at it similar to things that we've done in the past where it's a single boss. We've got two bosses here rather than one, but it's definitely more of a smaller raid zone. But the art here, we just think is mind-bogglingly awesome. The look and style.
Yes, this is the raid I was talking about where you're actually fighting 3 Jin all simultaneously, but during the fight, members of the raid will actually have to flip back and forth between the different towers using these, they'll basically jump off and get carried by the winds back and forth between them. So it ends up being a really, really interesting fight, and a lot of planning has to go into it for you guys to win successfully. All
okay,
right.
So that's what we have. So I think we've got some time for Q&A.
Hello. Thank you very much for all the work that you do. I have one question about LFG system looting. Is there any plans to make a more stringent looting system to prevent ninja looting or people just running through and grabbing stuff when lower geared players may need it?